And it starts. Okay. So, Halloween. That's what I want to talk about today. My memories of Halloween are pretty happy ones. They are kind of marked by a time of innocence because we would be allowed as kids to go to strangers' houses, door to door, in the dark, without any parents in tow. And there wasn't any worries about us. We knew our way back home. Now, this was the 1970s and 80s. I don't know if anybody remembers this period of time, but the costumes that we got were from like Kmart. And they had the plastic face with the rubber band. Don't take it off too many times because it's going to snap, right? You got the pants. Just walking, by the end of the evening, those pants will be thrown away in the garbage. You couldn't breathe through the plastic masks. You could hardly talk. Now kids are getting more creative with their Halloween decorations, but at the time, we relied on Kmart and any place that we could buy these at. And of course, many of the churches had Halloween celebrations. I particularly remember the Episcopal Church in my hometown. They had a gymnasium, and they had a Halloween party every year. And it was like the early version of Trunk or Treat, where you'd come to the church, get candy, bob for apples, and it was heaven. It was a wonderful way. We usually end the evening at that church after we went door to door. Now, I knew that there were some churches that didn't celebrate Halloween or didn't have any particular services for that, and some of my friends actually had to stay home that day. I had a friend who was a Jehovah's Witness, and they didn't believe in celebrating it, and I felt so bad for him. I was just like brokenhearted to imagine not being able to receive candy in that way. Now, some of this has changed over the last few years. A lot of churches that historically didn't celebrate Halloween are now having, and they have brought it back, but now it is called the Fall Festival. So if you're driving down the highway, you'll see churches with a sign, come to our Fall Festival, but you're still wearing costumes, you're still getting candy, so you're not fooling anybody. It's Halloween, right? But I'm grateful. I'm grateful that those kids also get to have this experience and the joy that this season comes. When I would talk to my friend who was Jehovah's Witness, it was kind of my first religious encounter with diversity and what do you do with that. And he would try to explain the religious beliefs. And often it came down to the pagan origins of Halloween. And that's actually true. There really are pagan origins to Halloween. And in particular, this comes to us from Ireland and the Celts and the holiday Samhain, which included dressing up in costumes and going door to door. But then it wasn't candy, it was just any food that you could receive. So we've improved on that because now we have candy. And Samhain also marked the end of the harvest and the anticipation of winter. This is a good time in northern climates for that, as you can feel the temperature change in the last few days. And this goes back to a time also where it was understood that the spirits were really close. The dead were really close to the living on a day like this. But this focus on our ancestors found its way into the Christian celebration of the day, which is called All Hallows Eve, or the day before All Saints' Day. So if you can picture this, right? You have Christmas Eve, then you have Christmas Day. All Hallows Eve, and then All Saints' Day. Actually, usually it's a 3-day festival. It was historically supposed to be a 3-day festival. We've kind of scrunched it. It's more like the way the traditional church holidays work is you should have like a Good Friday, a Holy Saturday, and an Easter. You have a 3-day celebration for all the major church holidays. And it was called All Hallows Tide. There was a 3-day celebration that culminated in the celebration of All Saints. And we know that the Christian church has been celebrating it at least since the 600s. It's been celebrated. It was around it got moved to December 31st, as All Hallows Eve did. It got moved to this period in October by Pope Gregory. He wanted a celebration to celebrate the saints and the apostles and those people who have died for their faith. And so in 835 it was officially switched. November 1st. November 1st is All Saints Day. The eve is October 31st. And so in 835 it got switched. So All Saints Day and All Hallows Eve have been a part of the church calendar ever since. So for 1,000 years, this has been a part of the church calendar to celebrate All Saints Day and All Hallows Eve. Now, when I was a kid growing up, we never celebrated it. Now, our church had celebrations for the kids because it's a kids' day and kids like candy and all that. But they didn't treat it as a religious holiday. It was never included in the calendar. And I'm not sure if it was considered too Catholic. But also, it also fell on another particular important day for Protestant churches. Because on October 31st, 1517, what happened? 98. The 98th Thesis on the Chapel of the Wittenberg, which is why, what time is it? It's at Westminster Presbyterian?
4 p.m.
4 p.m. Hymn tribute. One of the gifts that the Protestant church created was modern day hymnody. Martin Luther, John Wesley, Charles Wesley, all these early Protestant reformers wrote hundreds and hundreds of hymns that we get to enjoy today, and started that tradition of corporate singing. And so that's a wonderful gift to be able to enjoy. So this happens to be October 31st is also the day to celebrate Reformation Sunday, and this is the 500th anniversary. Now, Reformation Sunday was obviously, in the churches I grew up in, that's what you celebrated on October 31st, was that, and not All Saints Day. Because we wouldn't want to be seen as Catholic. I remember as a kid, I grew up Presbyterian, and I remember saying the Apostles' Creed. And I remember reading, I believe in the Holy Catholic Church. And I'd be nudging my parents like, but we're not Catholic. And they're like, no, this is the Church Universal.